Hey everyone. I never thought I'd be writing something like this. I'm 35, my soon-to-be ex-wife is 33, and we have a wonderful 7-year-old son. This isn't just a cheating story. It's a slow-motion disaster I never saw coming. From the very beginning, I never got along with our neighbor, Mark. He was the kind of guy who just rubbed me the wrong way. He parked his car like a jerk, blasted music at weird hours, and acted like he owned the street. We had this unspoken rivalry, passive-aggressive glances, snarky comments, little arguments over nonsense. Just pure tension. But my wife, Emily, always defended him. He's just misunderstood. He's lonely. Give him a break, she'd say. She always seemed a little too sympathetic when it came to him. Now I realize she was flirting with him. For a long time, probably since we first moved in. Mark lives alone. He's always outside on his balcony, smoking, watching the neighborhood like a hawk. I'd catch Emily smiling at him sometimes through the window, but I brushed it off. I thought I was just being paranoid. But something about those smiles haunts me now. Looking back, that was the first sign. Emily constantly defending the one guy I couldn't stand. The one guy who would end up being the reason our marriage exploded in the most humiliating way imaginable. This was just the beginning. Emily started changing about a year ago. It was subtle at first. She suddenly cared more about how she looked, even when she was just taking out the trash, or watering the plants. She bought new dresses. Started wearing makeup every day. Even perfume, just to hang around the house. I asked her about it once and she snapped. So now I can't feel pretty in my own home? I backed off. I didn't want to be the controlling husband, so I chalked it up to her just wanting to feel good about herself. But then came the walks. She started going on these long walks in the evening. Sometimes she'd say she needed to clear her head, or get some air after a long day with our son. Fair. But there were times she'd be gone for over an hour. One time, I even called her when dinner was getting cold. She didn't pick up. Said later her phone died. Guess who she always walked past on those routes? Mark's house. That lonely bastard always seemed to be out there, cleaning his porch, washing his car, watering the same patch of grass he'd already watered twice. It was like he knew when she'd come by. And yet I still didn't suspect anything. I had no reason to think my wife, the mother of my son, would betray me like this. I thought she was just going through something personal. Maybe feeling cooped up, maybe stressed. I didn't push her. I wanted to be supportive. God, I was blind. Our son, Daniel, had drawn a picture of Mommy and Uncle Mark. That's what he called our neighbor. The drawing? Them holding hands in our backyard. I laughed nervously and asked him, "Why is Mommy holding Mark's hand?" He just shrugged and said, "They do that sometimes when you're at work." I felt my stomach drop. Emily was in the kitchen. I walked in and told her about the drawing, half joking. I expected her to laugh it off and say our son just has a wild imagination. But she froze. Just for a split second. Then came the laugh. But it was forced. He's a kid. He doesn't understand what he's drawing. I helped him draw that. He meant me and you, she said way too quickly. That was the first moment I truly felt something was wrong. Not just weird wrong. A few days later, I came home early from work, surprise day off, and Mark was in our kitchen. Emily said he had come over to borrow eggs. But the way they looked at each other? Something unspoken passed between them. I couldn't explain it, but I felt it in my chest. Mark left 5 minutes later. Didn't even say hi to me. That night I lay awake next to her, staring at the ceiling, wondering how many lies I'd swallowed over the last year. But I still didn't have proof. Just gut feelings. And I was trying to keep my family together. But I was getting close. Closer than she realized. It was a Wednesday. I'd had the shift from hell, back-to-back meetings, boss yelling over nonsense, spilled coffee on my shirt, the kind of day you just want to end with a shower and a hug from your kid. I walked in through the front door. Quiet. No cartoon sounds. No clatter of dishes. Just this strange, muffled thud from upstairs. I called out, "Emily?" No answer. Then I heard something. A laugh. Not my wife's. A man's voice. I froze. I walked up the stairs slowly. The bedroom door was halfway open. And that's when I saw it. Emily. My wife. Completely naked. On top of Mark. In our bed. The same bed where our son used to crawl in during thunderstorms. I stood there stunned. It didn't even feel real. She saw me and screamed, not out of shame, but anger. "Why are you home? You weren't supposed to be home." Can you believe that was her first reaction? Mark scrambled to grab his clothes. I didn't even move. I just stood there staring. My brain had shut down. The only thing I remember clearly was how calm I felt. Too calm. Emily started shrieking at me, saying I was invading her privacy. That I was twisting things. That I never made her feel loved. That Mark listened to her. I think I laughed. Out loud. Just once. It wasn't funny. But it was like my mind had snapped. I turned to Mark. "Get out." He didn't say a word. He just left, half-dressed, barefoot, down the stairs and out the door. I walked downstairs and sat on the couch. Emily came down 5 minutes later, wrapped in a robe, still shouting about how I don't understand what it's like to feel alone. I said 5 words. "I'm filing for divorce tomorrow." She froze. Then? She laughed. Said, "You're nothing without me. You'll regret this." I didn't answer. In the morning, Emily acted like nothing had happened. She made breakfast. Asked if I wanted coffee. Like we hadn't just destroyed our marriage the night before. I told her flatly, "I'm serious about the divorce." She smirked. "Go ahead. You think you'll win anything in court? I'll tell them you're unstable. Violent even. You yelled at me yesterday. Remember?" I blinked. I had yelled? I hadn't even raised my voice. But it hit me, she was laying the groundwork. Trying to rewrite the narrative already. She said she'd fight for full custody of Daniel. That I couldn't handle being a full-time dad. That she'd make sure I paid if I ever told anyone what happened. But I wasn't playing her game anymore. I started documenting everything. I called a lawyer. Quietly opened a new bank account. I even installed a voice recorder app on my phone and kept it running when we were in the same room. Then came the next surprise. 2 days later, Mark, that coward, had the audacity to come by our house while I was home. Emily stood in the yard laughing with him. Like we were all living in some twisted soap opera. I walked outside and told him, "If you ever come near my house again, I'll file for a restraining order. Stay away from my son. Stay away from me." Mark raised his hands and mumbled something like, "Hey man, it just happened." I stepped closer. "No. You made it happen. You think sleeping with your neighbor's wife is an accident?" Emily screamed at me again. Called me toxic. Said I was making a scene. That I was traumatizing Daniel. At that moment, Daniel came to the door. His little eyes saw Mark. Saw his mom yelling at me. Saw me trying not to lose it. That's when I knew I had to get him out of this madness. I was wrong. Over the next week, Emily went into full sabotage mode. She was unpredictable, one moment crying and begging me to forgive her, the next screaming that I ruined the marriage. She twisted everything. She started planting seeds in our son's mind. Telling Daniel that Daddy is angry all the time. And that he might leave us. That hurt more than anything else. She was trying to turn my own son against me. But I had the recordings. Every fight, every lie, every manipulation. I didn't say a word, I just collected everything for the custody hearing I knew was coming. Then came the bombshell. I was going through some of her old emails while she was out. Yeah, I know, shady. But after what she did, I had no guilt left. I found one from almost a year ago. From Mark. It wasn't just flirting. It was full-blown sexting. Pictures. Plans to meet. Details about me. They joked about me. About how clueless I was. About how they'd sneak around while I worked late shifts. I felt sick. Like I was going to throw up right there. She wasn't just unfaithful, she was cruel. They enjoyed betraying me. Worse? There were references to other men. Guys she'd had fun with while on girl trips. Stuff I never even suspected. My mind was spinning. How long had she been doing this? I realized I never really knew who she was. That night, I confronted her. Showed her the emails. She didn't even deny it. She said, "So what? You weren't enough. I had to get what I needed somewhere." Then she added, "You were too busy playing perfect husband to notice you were boring the hell out of me." I didn't say a word. But I knew then, I was going to fight for full custody. And I wasn't going to lose. Emily filed her response to the divorce papers and claimed I was abusive. Said I was emotionally manipulative, scary, and unpredictable. She painted me as some kind of monster, and worst of all, she asked for full custody of Daniel. Luckily, I was prepared. I had the recordings. The screaming. The gaslighting. The threats. Her openly admitting to cheating. Her calling me worthless, saying she'd destroy me in court. When my lawyer heard the recordings, she looked at me and said, "We've got a real case here. This isn't just a divorce. This is a takedown." In the first hearing, Emily played her part perfectly. Crocodile tears. Dramatic sighs. Saying she was afraid for her child to be alone with me. But then we presented the recordings. The courtroom shifted. The judge leaned in. Her attorney visibly paled. The image she worked so hard to build crumbled in seconds. Then came her digital trail. We submitted the email exchanges with Mark. The ones where they mocked me. Where she bragged about getting away with it. Even the ones hinting at other affairs. Emily's face went white. For the first time, she was speechless. Her lawyer asked for a recess. They knew the case had flipped. She wasn't the victim anymore. She was the abuser. The liar. The unfit parent. And while we were outside the courtroom, she hissed at me. "You think you've won? You're going to be miserable. No woman will ever want someone like you." I just looked at her and said, "I don't need anyone. I have my son. And I have the truth." We had everything laid out, the audio, the emails, even a few testimonies from neighbors who said they'd seen Emily sneaking into Mark's place while I was at work. Everything painted a clear picture. She was reckless, manipulative, and dangerous to raise a child around. But Emily wasn't going down without a fight. Her last move? She tried to bring up my past, an old bar fight from years ago where I defended a friend. No charges, no convictions, but enough for her to say, "He has a history of violence." The judge didn't buy it. When the decision came down, I held my breath. Shared legal custody, but with me as the primary physical guardian. Daniel would live with me. Emily would get weekends, supervised until she could prove herself stable. She lost it in court. Threw a fit. Screamed at the judge. Said she was being punished for being a woman. Her lawyer had to calm her down before she got held in contempt. But here's where it gets crazy. Right after court, as we were leaving, Mark approached me in the parking lot. He looked miserable. Said, "She's been staying with me. But I can't take it anymore." I said nothing. Then he dropped it. "You should get Daniel DNA tested." Just saying, man, she was seeing other guys too. I froze. That night, I stared at Daniel as he slept. He's my son. I love him more than life. But suddenly my whole world felt even less real. What if Mark was telling the truth? So I did it. Quietly. I bought a home DNA kit. Took a cheek swab from Daniel one night after he fell asleep and sent it in with mine. The 2 weeks waiting for the results felt like years. I barely ate. Barely slept. Every time I looked at my son, I wanted to cry, not because I doubted him, but because I doubted everything. The email came in at 6:13 a.m. on a Tuesday. I clicked it, my hands shaking. Probability of paternity 0.00%. I read it 3 times. Then dropped my phone. He's not mine. 7 years. 7 years of bedtime stories, scraped knees, first words, first steps, and none of it came from me. I sat on the floor and just broke. I didn't cry like I thought I would. It was worse. I felt hollow. Numb. And then rage hit. Not at Daniel. Never at him. He's innocent. He's still my son in every way that matters. But Emily? She knew. She robbed me of the truth. She chose to lie every single day. Let me believe he was mine. Let me give everything to a child who, biologically, wasn't connected to me. And now? Now I had a choice to make. Tell Daniel the truth? Or protect him from the storm his mother created? It's been 3 years since Daniel read that letter. He's 16 now. Taller than me somehow. His voice deeper, but still full of that same quiet kindness. The kind he had as a toddler, when he'd fall asleep in my arms after a bad dream. Some things stay, even as everything else changes. The day after I gave him the letter, he didn't speak to me much. I didn't expect him to. I let him take his time. Let the storm inside him settle without trying to steer it. That night he didn't sleep in his room. He crawled into mine, like he hadn't done since he was 8. He said nothing. Just curled up beside me and lay there. I knew then we'd be okay. Emily drifted further out of our lives after that. There were no big scenes. No dramatic final fights. Just distance. A quiet fade. She moved again, somewhere out of state. Her calls became less frequent. Then came the voicemail one evening. I know you probably hate me, but I want you to know I'm trying. I'm sorry for everything. I hope one day he'll forgive me. I played it for Daniel. I didn't tell him what to do. He deleted it without a word. Time passed in the way it always does, slowly, and then all at once. Daniel started playing guitar. Got obsessed with classic rock for a while. Then shifted to indie bands I couldn't keep up with. He got good, too. Played a solo at the school talent show and looked up only once, at me. Smirked that same half-smile his mom used to wear when she wanted to win an argument. I clapped until my hands hurt. One rainy afternoon, as we sat on the porch watching the storm, Daniel finally asked the question I knew would come. Do you ever wish you'd known from the start? That I wasn't yours? I thought about lying. About softening it. But there wasn't room for lies between us anymore. No, I said. Because if I had known, maybe I wouldn't have fought so hard to be your dad. Maybe I would have walked away. Maybe I would have lost you before I ever had you. And I can't imagine my life without you in it. He nodded slowly. Me either. Then a pause. You think I should meet him? My bio dad? I was quiet for a long time. Then I said, if you want to. But don't do it for him. Don't do it for closure. You don't owe anyone that. Not even her. And not him. You're not missing a piece of yourself. You're whole. Always have been. He didn't bring it up again. Years from now, when he has a family of his own, if he chooses to, I know he'll carry this story with him. Maybe he'll tell it to his own child one day. Maybe he won't. But the legacy won't be the betrayal, or the lies, or even the DNA. It'll be the choice I made to stay. To love without condition. To become a father, not because I had to, but because I chose to be. The world moved on. Emily remarried someone she met in recovery. She sent Daniel a birthday card last year. He didn't open it, but he kept it in a drawer. I'm not ready, he said. Maybe one day he will be. Or maybe he won't. That's his story to write now. And me? I rebuilt. Quietly. I dated here and there, but nothing serious. Not because I was afraid, but because I was full. Complete. I had everything I needed in the boy who called me Dad, with his whole heart. Love doesn't always come from where you expect. Sometimes it's born in the ashes of what you thought you had. Sometimes, it's found in a crib, in a stranger's DNA, in a whispered bedtime promise you didn't even know was a vow. And sometimes, it's just a kid sitting on your porch during a thunderstorm, asking if you want to hear the new song he wrote. I said yes. And he played it just for me.